Employment sponsor TSS 482 working visas. How do you actually meet that requirement? Good day everyone, welcome to channel AMEC, your insight to the Australian visa system. My name is Carl, registered migration agent. Today I'd like to take some time to get you into Australians immigration website and talking about and going through how 482 working visa actually work. So let's just jump into it. Now, this is the Australian immigration website, and it under the description, it's a temporary skill shortage visa. So that's the short form is TSS. So under the subclass of 482. So I'd either call them TSS or 482 visas. Now, you can see that we are at the medium term stream. Now, obviously, there's a short term stream. Now, that's not our topic today. Short term stream basically provides all the occupation that you can actually get a working visa here, but you will not be able to go through the permanent residency pathways, and you can only extend it once, not twice. So obviously it's not favorable, but it's another way to get your visa here. Now today we're going to go through in regards to medium term stream, because that's most people that they're interested with, and let's have a look what's required. So obviously you have to have an eligible occupation. So if you are interested about it, you can come into this website under Australia's immigration's web page, and you click on the medium and long-term strategic skill list. I don't even know how to pronounce it. It's MLTSSL. They actually show you all the occupation that you'll be eligible to actually apply with. But before you do that, obviously you need to have an employer. So the employer has to be an Australian employer, unless it's an international corporate entity. They want to set up a branch, or they have already have a branch in Australia. That's a different way to do it under the international treaty obligations. So that can be done, but if you do have that kind of inquiry, leave a comment. I'm happy to reply and respond to your comments. Now, obviously, you need to have a relevant skill and qualification and work experiences. So that's very easy. Let me explain. If you want to be nominated as accountant, you cannot have a cookery background. And if you want to nominate it as a childcare teachers, you have to have a childcare teacher's background and experience. You cannot be a cook. You cannot be an IT guy and suddenly want to become a teacher. So that doesn't make sense anyhow. So before we do that, the employer is required to demonstrate what they call labor market testing. So it's what it actually meant in the plain English is that they need to test that they could not source a domestic workers before they actually send off for nomination to actually nominate you and sponsor you to work there. Now, there are occupations mandatory required to have a skill assessment, and what they are, let's have a look. Now, this is the Australian government's Federal Registry of Legislations. Now, under the IMMI 18/039, you can see this is what I call mandatory skill assessment subclass 482 visa instrument 2018. So the immigration officer actually put into a list that within this list, all these occupation has to have a positive skill assessments. That basically meant these skills occupations need to be tested to actually meet the Australian standards. So what we can see here, it's predominantly all the trades. So electricians, baker, cabinet maker, carpenter, chef, cook, diesel model, mechanic, anything else apart from this, like professional occupations or managerial occupations, does not require this, unless the immigration officer does have a very big doubt about your claim of work experiences and qualifications. But through 15 years of my practice, I've never seen such request. Now, what we need to do and need to know that to meet these requirements is the work experiences, that because previously under the working visas, with the old coding 457 visas that people know long time ago, it does not require work experiences. So since 2017, the new law requires someone to actually demonstrate that skill with a right and relevant work experiences. So let me just jump into the policies where it does explain further in regards what sort of work experiences that the immigration is actually looking for. So under 4.6.1 work experiences, and they actually explain fully in regards to the clause of 482.221 and 482.231. So that covers 221 covers the short term, and 231 covers the medium and long term list. So it does. It's quite bulky here, so let me just summarize it. It basically tells the immigration officer to actually assess the applicant's skill level to match the ENSCO. Okay, the ENSCO is what the full name is Australian New Zealand Standard Classification of Occupation. So what it does is it's a database compile with all the definition required for a particular occupation. So what we're looking at here is, if you're a school teacher, these are the requirements to actually meet the school teacher. Basically, it says your education background has to be a bachelor degree or above, or at least have 5 years of relevant experience can substitute your formal qualifications. So generally, it will tell you how much of the background is required to meet the definition of this occupation. So if we go back to the actual policies here, so an immigration officer will then check what you claim with your qualification and relevant work experiences, whether or not it will match it. So just give you an example. If you claim to be an accountant, obviously you either have accountancy qualifications, and then obviously plus after you graduated, you have 2 years of relevant full-time work experiences. Then you will meet the TSS 482 visas requirements. Now, the other scenario is you have not gained a bachelor of accountancy, but you have either a certificate or diploma, but you have been working as an accountant for 10 years. Okay, now if we go back to this ENSCO here, let's just search for accountant. Okay, now we can see the accountant here. Now if you don't have a bachelor degree, our scenarios here, let's jump back here. It does says at least 5 year relevant work experiences will then substitute the formal qualifications. So good news about this, if you have 10 years of work experiences, so the first 5 years will then substitute that bachelor qualifications. Then obviously the next 5 years will then allow you to actually claim, because that's more than 2 years of work experiences, then you will be able to actually meet the requirement of the legislations. Okay, so that's basically what it actually explains. Now, in regards to international students who actually study in Australia, it's a very tricky scenario, but and a lot of people got confused here, because a lot of people study. Let's just jump back to the accountant scenario. If you study a bachelor of accountancy in Australia university, you graduated, you have gained your temporary work visas. Now, what do you do there? Now, obviously, a lot of people jump into a professional year program that you can see here as an internship. Now, what 482 visas allows you to do is, and can actually accumulate it, is during your graduate temporary work visas, if you're in a professional year or not, you have, as long as you can gain a relevant work experiences, you will be able to count towards eligibility to actually lodge a 482 visas. Unlike a traditional independent skill migration, where the skill assessing authority has a different skill assessing criteria. Now that's totally different than what is required here. So you don't have to meet the independent skill migration skill assessment criteria. You only need to meet the working test. So that the test here is, have you got the right qualifications? After you got the qualifications, have you got 2 years full-time working experiences? Now, full-time basically is defined as 35 hours per week over 2 years. Then you will meet the requirement here. Okay, so the reason I do want to do this video to actually explain this is because I've been receiving so many comments and queries in regards to a 482 visa, whether I should get a skill assessment or not. That's the biggest hurdle there. Now, a lot of people don't know about it, and then if you graduated and go back to the accountant scenario, if you graduated as an accountant from Australian institutions, do you need to do a skill assessment? Generally, we will still do it, but under 482 visa, you're not required to do it. So in conjunction to all different type of visas and migration pathways, 482 visa is another way to actually gain permanent residency. So if you do have any comments, I know this is very complicated, and every person's scenario is different. So if you do have any questions and comments, more than welcome to leave it, and I'll respond back to you. Thank you for watching.